Kafka has been out for a few days now in Honkai Star Rail, so today I want to look at who her best team options are going to be. Because I know a lot of people pulled for Kafka, and yeah, I have the characters that work the best with her in four main categories, and one of which we'll get to later on in the video, is coming out 1.3, but I can kind of talk about them now, even though we don't have any real concrete info about what they do officially yet. So, to go through each category here, starting with the best DOT appliers. So these are the characters that I think are the strongest in terms of applying DOT and being able to enable Kafka to do a lot more damage. And these two characters are Sampo and Luka, which is really nice because they're both on her banner. So if you're still thinking about whether or not you're going to pull Kafka, if you do pull her, you have a very strong chance of getting at least one of these two, and that'll help benefit your team a lot with her, because they both work extremely well with Kafka. So since Kafka's whole thing is re-triggering instances of DOT with her skill, having Sampo being able to apply Wind Shear, and then Luka being able to apply Bleed, adding those in with Kafka's Shock, is going to be very strong for her to just do a lot of damage. Now, starting with Sampo here, not only is it really good that his skill, his basic attack skill and ultimate, they all have chances of inflicting Wind Shear, mostly through his talent, but also the fact that his ultimate increases enemies' vulnerability for DOT damage, so they'll end up taking more DOT damage from Sampo's ult for a set number of turns. And so if you're able to ult with Sampo before using Kafka's skill, you're going to be able to get even more damage out of re-triggering all the DOT instances from that, which is going to be really good for damage. And for Luka, he's a very good applier of bleed damage, and just having bleed is going to be another DOT source for Kafka. And then I also believe one of Luka's Eidolons, which I think it's E2. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but he does get an increase to the bleed damage he does. And while I didn't get my Luka to E2, I only got him to E1, that is still a very strong Eidolon. So, if you are able to get that, and I think it's a pretty likely chance to get two of a character on that banner. Depending on how many pulls you're doing, of course. But, yeah, these two end up having some of the most impressive DOT damage from what I can tell, compared to the other DOT appliers, which we'll get to in just a bit here. So I do think that they are very good with Kafka, plus also for the Nihility characters, and namely Sampo especially. The free-to-play light cone in the Forgotten Hall shop for Mata for Nihility characters actually increases the DOT damage taken by enemies when they are inflicted specifically for Wind Shear damage and Shock damage, which is going to help Kafka and Sampo a lot. You can run it on either one of them. I currently have it on my Kafka because I don't have a better light cone right now. Once I get enough of the currency to buy a 5-star light cone in the regular shop, I'm gonna buy the Welt signature light cone and then give her the Good Night Sleep Well light cone that my Welt currently has. So obviously for that, but for Mata is very strong, and it's just gonna boost that Wind Shear and shock damage even more, which is why I think Sampo is probably a little bit stronger than Luka. I might do a video next week, just doing a more in-depth comparison of the two of them, but they are by far the best appliers of DOT for Kafka. Then we go into the next category, which are other DOT appliers that you can use. So let's say, for example, you pull for Kafka and you just get Sampo, right? And you're like, I want a third character that can also apply more DOT. So your other options there are going to be Serval and Hook. Now, some other characters, have ways that they can apply DOT and whatnot, but in terms of being able to more consistently apply it, these two are going to be your best bet. The one thing that's, kind of hit or miss for using Serval in this situation is that she also applies Shock. So, yeah, so you're not getting a new DOT out of that. You're kind of just getting more Shock for Kafka, which if your Kafka's not well built, then it might be good, and Serval can do decent damage herself. But outside of that, I feel like she's not going to be as impactful. Definitely not as impactful as Sampo or Luka. I do think Hook might actually be a little more impactful though, because she's able to apply burn, which is a new type of DOT. You know, the more types of DOT you can put on, the more damage you're going to end up doing when Kafka re-triggers all that DOT. So that is something definitely to keep in mind. The one thing with Hook is that you do have to build her up. You got to get her ultimate off so you can enhance her basic attack for the multi-enemy fights. If you're fighting just one enemy, then you could probably get by with just her normal skill to inflict DOT, because she has a 100% base chance to inflict her burn. So yeah, Hook is definitely a good option. Not as good as Sampo and Luka, so that's why I have the two of them as like other DOT appliers. So they are options that I think will definitely work. Now I haven't tested Hook at all because I don't have a Hook built, but I do think Hook would be a good option if you're looking for another DOT applier besides Sampo, Luka, and Serval there. Then, for the third category, I have support characters. So let's say, for example, you know, you have Kafka and Sampo, or you have Kafka and Luka, or even have like Kafka and Hook. Let's say, for example, instead of having like a third DOT character, you want to have a support character. Now, there's 3 support characters that I think are very good. I think Silverwolf is probably going to be your best bet in terms of support because of all the debuffs that she can provide, lowering the enemy's attack, defense, and speed. So yeah, I especially want to focus on the defense and speed debuffs because lowering the enemy's defense is going to make the DOTs do more damage, and then lowering the enemy's speed is, you know, depending on how you have your Kafka built, you might end up getting some more turns with your Kafka, which means more time to re-trigger all those DOTs that you built up with your Kafka, your Sampo, your Luka, whoever you're running as your DOT appliers. Then on a similar thread, you know, I feel like Asta and Pella, you know, being the other support characters I have here as probably the best support options, they kind of each have half of what Silverwolf is bringing to the table. So Asta's main thing, instead of slowing the enemies down, her ultimate can speed your team up. So, you know, if you have your Kafka built with enough speed, I don't have the exact numbers on hand, but if you build her up with enough speed, and you use Asta's skill, that'll get you even more turns that you can re-trigger that DOT and just do a lot of damage with Kafka. Then Pella is able to lower the enemy's defense with her ultimate, and then I think also I think her skill also has a chance to. So being able to lower their defense is just going to cause more DOT damage, similar to how I mentioned with Silverwolf. But Silverwolf being able to do both of those debuffs, I think will ultimately make her better than Asta and Pella, but I understand not everyone's going to have a Silverwolf, and, you know, that's totally valid. So if you don't have her, you know, Asta's a free 4-star, so everyone has Asta, and then if you have Pella, then she could be a good option for lowering defense as well. And then lastly, and I feel like this row is going to be pretty consistent when it comes to team comps, is the healers in the game, because, you know, for a team, you want to either have a preservation character to have shields up all the time, or you want to have a healer to keep your team alive. And this column is pretty much going to remain unchanged. Now, I do have Lynx in the column as well, you know, with Luocha, Bailu, and Natasha, because we do know that Lynx is going to be a healer. And for these team videos in the columns, I'm going to start trying to, you know, rank them. Like, I kind of have them ranked in the order that I would prefer them here. For the most part, I think I would actually move Hook and Serval, actually. But yeah, I have Lynx at the back of the list for the healers just because we don't have any official info on her yet. So once we get that, then I'll probably, you know, move her accordingly. But yeah, I do think right now in the game, Luocha is still the best healer. I also do know that not everyone has him. I don't have a Luocha. So yeah, if you're looking for healing, even if you don't have Luocha, Bailu is still very good. I use my Bailu on pretty much every team that I run outside of, you know, Memory of Chaos, because I can't have Bailu on both teams. Natasha is still very good as a free-to-play healer. You can get a lot of good healing out of her. And then, you know, we'll see what happens with Lynx once 1.3 drops. But yeah, that is all of the team options that I think are going to be really good with Kafka. So let me know in the comments down below if you're using any of these characters, and, you know, what you think of Kafka so far. But with that, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit the like button, comment, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, all that fun stuff, and I will see you all next time.